I'm nuzlocking every Pokemon game in chronological order, again. After the task of taking down each game without a single repeat Pokemon, I asked, how can I up the ante? And the answer was obvious. Shiny Pokemon only. That's right, 40 games, no repeats, all shinies. Can I pull it off? Well, let's see if I can keep it going with the first pair of Generation 3 games, Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get notified for every time I upload. Like the video if you're excited for Season 2 of the franchise Nuzlocke, and comment down below if you enjoy any of the shinies in this video. I know I do. Although, that might just be because of my insanity from doing this challenge again, but harder. Rules are in the description, and if you want to see me continue this series, I'm streaming this entire challenge right here on YouTube. I took a bit of a hiatus to work on some other videos, which should be out in September, but we're back in full swing, and I'd love to see some of you folks in there as we continue to try to fill out our shiny National Pokedex. But with that, let's begin. Starting straight away, I should explain something that'll be extremely important for this run, RNG manipulation. If you haven't watched my Shiny Professor Oak's challenge video on Ruby and Sapphire I made a little while ago, well you should, but if you don't have the time right now, let me get you up to speed. RNG manipulation can be summed up as doing things in a video game to influence the random number generator to give you a desired outcome. Of course, this wouldn't be possible with real RNG, but thanks to Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire using pseudo-RNG, you're able to accurately predict how the game will act at certain times. Each time the game boots or is soft reset, a number known as a seed is used, and in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, this seed changes every minute. However, with a dry battery, I can always make sure the seed stays at 5A0, giving me an entirely predictable line of RNG thanks to the help of a software called Pokefinder. This includes my trainer and secret ID, as well as my encounters, meaning I can get a shiny of basically any Pokemon of my choosing, depending on how long I want to wait. Just one tiny problem. I have to hit a 1-frame window for every encounter in the game. Thankfully, having done my Professor Oak's challenge of this, I already have practice doing over 100 of these manips, so I'll be more focused on the nuzlocks here. I do end up botching my manipulation for my trainer and secret ID the first time, and the second time since I accidentally hit A on the last text box out of habit, but third time's the charm and I'm able to nail the trainer secret ID combo of 04397 and 33270. I use the same combo for my Oak challenge, but here it's also good for early frames for just about all of my intended encounters, so I should be in for smooth sailing. First things first, I'm going for our starter Pokemon in Mudkip. Of course, since we're doing this with a dry battery, all we have to do is hit that single frame perfect A-press on frame 6347 for a pretty strong Mudkip with a serious nature, and in the top third of IVs in HP, attack, special defense, and speed. The only thing I'm eating here is an IV of 2 in special attack, which does dampen things like Ice Beam and Surf, but I think I'll be able to handle it. It takes me a half dozen attempts, getting within 1 to 2 frames just about every time, but there's always that sense of pride and accomplishment hitting that perfect frame. It's just, mwah, it feels so good. The tutorial Poochyena goes down immediately, leaving me to head straight onto Route 101 for our first EV grinding session. Now we're looking for level 2 Zigzagoons and level 2 Poochyenas, which give speed and attack EVs respectively. I'm planning on a spread of 252 attack, 4 special attack, and 252 speed on Mudkip, which should be pretty easy to do considering those Zigzagoons and Poochyenas only give 15 EXP each, with of course level 4 Ralts on Route 102 giving 40 for those few special attack EVs I want. With that said though, I only go up to level 6 because I want to challenge May to get her out of the way and open up further areas so I can get a few more encounters before fully committing to that EV training. Her Trico is very simple to take down as 4 tackles thanks to that high attack IV managed to fell the opponent, giving me access to the Pokedex and therefore more areas to collect some more shiny Pokemon. There are 3 encounters I want to get before the first gym, so I may as well get those instead of getting a bunch of EVs while not spreading out the XP. My first one is on Route 102, and it isn't a shiny actually. Instead, it's Surskit, and it's the only Pokemon this early in the game that learns Sweet Scent. I absolutely need this to time wild shiny encounters, since I can't just press on the D-pad and hope to encounter on the exact frame. It just doesn't work like that, so it'll be an honorary team member throughout all 5 of the Generation 3 games, just not used in meaningful battles. Once it learns Sweet Scent though, I'm ready for some encounters. Route 102 houses my desired grass type for the run in C-Dot on frame 2388, so not that long of a wait for a decent IV spread. Grass and Dark are a pretty decent type combo, and while both are special, Shiftry's special attack isn't anything to shake a stick at with a base 90, though I would like to take advantage of the base 100 physical attack. But who really cares? We get growth at level 7 to boost our special attack way beyond what our physical attack is capable of. Combine that with middle-of-the-road power-wise stab attacks like Feint Attack and Giga Drain that have some great secondary effects in not being able to miss and for recovering HP, and we're looking at a really competent team member. And would you believe it, after setting up the timer, I managed to nail the frame-perfect input for C-Dot on the first try, getting myself a shiny. Second up, Route 104 houses our resident flying type in Tailo. Don't really need to explain it beyond Facade plus Guts plus Normal Stab plus L plus Ratio plus your white, so it doesn't really take that much time at all to capture. 3 team members honestly feels appropriate for Roxanne, so I'll hold off for the 4th until after. But for right now, I'm gonna go do some EV training first. I'm much more focused on their offensive potential early on, so I go straight away for attack on Mudkip and Tailo, as well as special attack on C-Dot. The former is really easy for them to split the EXP to 7 each from level 2 Poochyena, all while C-Dot can struggle down level 4 Ralts to get some progress, but considering those give 40 EXP each, it's not really much in the grand scheme of things. I'll likely hold this one back for a few gyms before we get him prepped, though I think it might be fun to use him against Roxanne. That aside, 1 Team Magma Grunt is the only required trainer before Roxanne, so by leaving enough room for the EXP from that fight, I'm clear to take her on. Now, while Mudkip normally completely solos this fight, I figured we would have some fun with the newly evolved Nuzleaf. We got the TM for Bullet Seed as well as growth by level up, so how about a setup sweep on the first gym? 1 growth is all it takes before Rock Tomb takes a third of Nuzleaf's HP away, but Nuzleaf's plenty fast enough to run through Geodude with a 2-hit Bullet Seed, leaving just Nose Pass. Rock Throw gets a crit, but that's actually a great thing considering it did 14 damage and brought Nuzleaf below half HP, triggering the Oran Berry and making it safe to stay in after our first Bullet Seed. It does trigger a healing turn with a potion, as does the second thanks to a crit, but third time's the charm as Nuzleaf pulls through with the ultimate 5-hit Bullet Seed to KO, winning the fight single-handedly. Now that is what I call a start to a Nuzlocke. I didn't even need Mudkip. Surely this will go very, very well. Next up, we've got the Team Magma Grunt over in the Rust Turf Tunnel, but quite frankly, who cares? We've got a shiny to get in here. I'm going for another normal type here in Whismur. Why? I don't know, just for fun. Thought it'd be cool to use it. So after a few attempts, I managed to snag one on frame 6040. Not much else to do aside from top up EVs though, since the next gym's right over in Dewford Town with just 1 required trainer and a single Pokemon, fast-tracking me to Brawly. He leads off with Machop, so I lead Tailo and try KOing it with a single wing attack. Newly learned, but not quite enough as Machop gets off a bulk up. Sure, we kinda got screwed over by a range as per usual on this channel, but honestly it doesn't matter here. He uses a super potion and 2 wing attacks still KOs through +1 defense and I call it a day. Second out is Makihita, which I'm 100% expecting to be a 2-shot, but oddly enough the ace is the one Tailo 1-shots. Not even with a crit to send Brawly packing, sans 1 Knuckle Badge added to my collection. Now, if things end up going well, I'm only planning on grabbing 3 more encounters for the entirety of Ruby, so things should go swimmingly. Speaking of, after crossing the water and taking out the Team Magma Grunts in the Oceanic Museum, I'm good to head straight up into Route 110 for my next desired encounter, Electrike. Why not Plusler-Minun? Well, they really aren't that good a Pokemon for one, and 2, they're the ones available from Horde encounters in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Considering RNG manipulation setup is completely infeasible in a Nuzlocke setting in Gen 6, it only makes sense to save the Pokemon that I can counter the quickest, even if they aren't necessarily great, but I digress. Electrike is a little bit of a hassle to grab, considering we have to wait about 900 seconds between encounters for one. It's the only encounter of the game like this, but hey, it did give me an excuse to introduce my stream chat to the wonders of Balatro, a poker roguelite game that hits the dopamine receptors like no other. This isn't the channel for me to sell you on it, though if you want to learn more, I'd highly recommend checking out Yako CMN's recent video on indie games where Balatro is front and center. I've been kind of addicted to it for like the past half year. It's been great. I love it. Regardless, it does not take 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 attempts to get this Electrike. But hey, we had fun in the interim. Can't really be too mad about that. But that's 5 members of the team, so who's the 6th? Well, you're gonna have to find out later as Miss Lame May is getting in our way. She's quickly handled though, thanks to Nuzleaf using Bullet Seed on Whalmer, swapping into Marshtomp to take out Numel with Water Gun, then finally switching for Tailo to take out Grovyle with Wing Attack in the face of Absorb, one-shotting it with our tiny bird and sending her packing. You know, maybe she wouldn't be as lame if she drank Gamer Sups and knew to use code ChaoticMeat at checkout for 10% off. After all, folks, what's better after an effectively played battle than anime girl thigh, titty milk, or good? From what I've heard, that flavor is good. My favorite's pineapple cocktail because I love I love tropical flavors, plus it's keto-friendly, which is great for me, and for anybody else who's looking to try to cut out unnecessary calories from their sodas, energy drinks, or coffee. Not to mention, they come in caffeinated and non-caffeinated varieties, depending on your sensitivity to that sort of thing. And the cherry on top is that it's cheaper than soda, coffee, and energy drinks at just 40 cents a serving, so make sure to head into the description for Gamer Sups, and again, that's code ChaoticMeat at checkout when using my affiliate link for 10% off. It gives me a little bit of a kickback, helps out the channel, so I really do appreciate it. Headed up to Mauville, I'm able to crush Wally and evolve Tailo into Swellow, though that's not really relevant for Watson. The only relevant Pokemon is Marshtomp, being able to Mudshot, Magnemite, Voltorb, and Magneton all in sequence to one-hit KO everything and earn me the Dynamo badge. I guess from this point, it's time for some TMs over in the game corner since Ice Beam and Thunderbolt are both readily available here, making Marshtomp and Electrike much more useful respectively. Shadow Ball is also here for great coverage on our newly evolved Loudred, so I'm pretty happy all things considered, especially for speeding up the whole gauntlet of Route 111, 112, Fiery Path, Route 113, Vilarbor Town, Route 114, Meteor Falls, and Mount Chimney. It's crazy how many areas there are between gyms sometimes. Anyway, Maxie's at the top of Mount Chimney, of course, and that requires a beatdown, perfect for my newly evolved Manectric and Marshtomp to handle. He leads off with Mightyena, packing the Intimidate ability, so it makes sense for me to lead off with Manectric to wave it off and use Thunderbolt, one-shotting and leading to Golbat? Huh. I guess he's programmed to send in Camerupt last, but I will 100% take it as Manectric outspeeds and hits Thunderbolt to send the bat packing back into his Pokeball. Last out is Camerupt, of course, so it's out to Swellow to dodge Magnitude, then into Marshtomp to eat an Ember for barely any damage before going for the quad-effective Water Gun, only doing a bit over half, but considering Camerupt wasn't too smart, he went for Ember again instead of Magnitude, letting Marshtomp clean his clock with another Water Gun to seal the deal. One Meteorite in hand, time to head to Lavaridge for Flannery. Marshtomp is a great lead here, despite the Sun possibly making Water-type moves a bit worse, and that's because Ground-type moves are physical and just as good since they're super effective. Mudshot manages to one-shot both Slugmas, leaving just Torkoal. Mudshot's blasted out once again for a little over half damage, but we're immediately stopped in our tracks with a Body Slam that manages to paralyze on the first turn. Great. I'm hoping that one more will be able to KO it and we just don't get held down for a turn, but full paralysis grabs Marshtomp for the turn, though the Oran Berry does help. I'm giving it one more turn, but Attract then makes it even more impossible to hit anything else, so once Marshtomp's in the red, I'm forced to swap into Manectric. She has solid defense, so why not? Body Slam only manages to do a little over a quarter, she doesn't get paralyzed, and Thunderbolt's more than enough to seal the deal thanks to Torkoal's lower special defense, KOing and earning me the Volcano badge. Or is it the Heat badge? Or is it the Fire badge? God, I cannot keep these things straight to save my life. Half down, half to go. And it doesn't take me long to get back to Petalburg for Norman, though we do have a single detour to take care of. That being our 6th main team member in Anorith. The fossil is now available thanks to the Go Goggles from May, and the timing for the frame-perfect input in Rustboro isn't that hard from my previous experience, so I'm clear to head back after grabbing it from Route 111 and able to get it on my second attempt. This is a perfect Pokemon, by the way, going into Norman, as after some EV training, I'm able to head straight into battle, because Anorith learns Protect by Level Up, a TM that we don't get until we hit Lily Cove City. This both nullifies Slackings from being able to attack both of them, while also being able to fish for attack buffs with Metal Claw in between turns. This sounds like it shouldn't be too good since we only have 10 uses to Protect, but thanks to a held Lepa Berry, I'm able to get 20 uses, giving me more than enough time to work through Norman's Hyper Potions on his first Slacking, eventually KOing and leading to Vigoroth. I don't quite have enough attack buffs to make this a 2-shot with Metal Claw, but I can bring him into the red to waste yet another Hyper Potion before finishing him off with a Metal Claw and Rock Tomb combo, leaving just the second Slacking. From there, it's just a Protect Metal Claw combo once again until he's down, though admittedly, I probably didn't even need to use Protect since Norman seemed to be addicted to using Focus Punch. Ah yes, perfect move on Slacking. Make it be able to hit even less often than 50% of the time. Thank you for the balance badge. Maybe the league should consider hiring me for this position instead. Actually, wouldn't that be a pretty sick Pokemon game? Really cool spin on the formula, playing as a gym leader. Really curious how they'd be able to write a story around possibly stonewalling every challenger from going to the Elite Four, or whether or not there'd be different story paths for different trainers challenging you and depending on whether or not you win or lose. Probably a long shot, but I would love to see that. Moving on ahead with Surf into Route 118 and 119 is the doubleheader of the Weather Institute and Courtney, along with May right after. Of course, Courtney's team is drowned with Marshtomp Surf, but we might need a little more firepower for May. Thankfully, we have just the item, as here on Route 119 lies a Leaf Stone, the first available in the game in order to evolve Nuzleaf into Shiftry. That's 3 out of the 6 team members fully evolved too, and we're quickly closing in on the last 3. With that evolution though, May's leading Numel and myself with Manectric. I always forget that Bulbapedia is wrong on the lead for this fight, being Wailmer. When will I learn? Anyway, I do just immediately swap into Marshtomp, eating a Magnitude 7 for 20 damage before flooding her out with Surf. Second out, of course, is Grovyle, so it's out to Swellow to whip up a Tornado with Wing Attack and blow her away, leaving just Wailmer. And didn't take that much damage from Leaf Blade, and Wailmer doesn't have Ice Beam. What's the worst that can happen? I go for Wing Attack for half, and she goes for Water Pulse, which brings Swellow to half HP. For some reason, I expected that to do more. Regardless, another Wing Attack cinches the battle right up, giving me the HM for Fly as a reward. It's not that much of an upgrade power-wise in comparison to Wing Attack, and considering there's no leftovers until the post-game, it's nearly not a good way to take advantage of it. Regardless, one Devon Scope later, and I'm good to challenge Winona for the 6th badge. She leads off with Swellow, and unsurprisingly, I'm just going for Manectric to one-shot with Thunderbolt, leading to Altaria. Now, while sure, we're doing neutral damage and that's not that bad, I still need to switch since Altaria is packing Earthquake, using Swellow as a pivot before heading into Marshtomp and taking a Dragon Breath in the process. The second occurs due to being outsped, paralyzing, but this time I thought ahead and gave Marshtomp a Cherry Berry, healing it off and blasting out an Ice Beam to KO with a possibly necessary critical hit. Who knows with how low Marshtomp's special attack IV is. At this point, it's just back out to Manectric on Pelipper to one-shot everything else with Thunderbolt, taking out the aforementioned Pelipper and Skarmory to win the fight in short order. Beautiful. I mean, I can't ask for much else. Not to mention with the level cap rocketing up quite a bit before Tate and Liza, I can finally evolve Marshtomp into the powerhouse Swampert. About time. I mean, over 6 badges in is a little bit too long in my opinion. Nothing much really gets in the way other than Team Magma with my trek towards Moss Deep City, with a confrontation atop Mount Pyre, the submarine heist in Slateport, finally getting to Lily Cove for the hideout, though I suppose I should mention the May fight first and open up the department store. Her team is pretty much outmatched by mine at this point, as she's leading Swellow, I'm leading Swampert, and Ice Beam kills it following a double team. Grovyle's KO'd with Swellow's Wing Attack post-switch and Leaf Blade. Third out is Wailmer. Figured I may as well keep Swellow in and continue the barrage of Wing Attack, two-shotting after seeing missed, then doing the same to Numel following a takedown to win the fight. Well, I guess that's that. We're not going to see Sceptile. There's your final rival fight. I don't know why it's like this. It's so bad. I mean, honestly, if they had paced it like putting Wally at the end of Victory Road, but the last May fight like right at the top after you get past that waterfall, that would be kind of fun, but nope, we just don't get to see Sceptile at all in our Pokedex. One hideout later, and I'm finally clear to surf over to Moss Deep City, taking on Tate and Liza. This fight's pretty much a joke since it's just Roxanne all over again. A full rock team against Shiftry and Swampert. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, except for the fact that Surf now hits 2 opponents instead of 1, so that means it's faster. A combo of Feint Attack and Surf fell Soul Rock on turn 1, doing nearly half damage to Lunatone in the process, and only managing to set up a Calm Mind before going down to another Feint Attack Surf combo, winning me the fight and increasing the level cap by 1. It increases by 1 level. Well, better avoid as many trainers as possible then. One we can't avoid, though, is Maxie at the end of the C4 Cavern. Though, honestly, who cares? He's easy enough with the power of Manectric, taking Mightyena down with 2 Thunderbolts, proceeding to paralyze on the turn he uses Scary Face and nullifying the speed debuff because of that and eating through a Super Potion at the same time, before Camerupt enters second. I figured I'd swap into Swampert since, after all, Surf is way stronger than Water Gun, as are Swampert's stats much higher than Marshtop's. Mopping the floor with the Camel Crony, leaving just Crobat to be obliterated post-switch and Air Cutter to Manectric, as one Thunderbolt finishes the fight with a win. But as video game logic dictates, we have to win in the fight, lose in the cutscene, baby. It's just how it works. I don't get it. Groudon is activated, and we've got to go stop him. And by stop him, I mean change its color to yellow. This is the last Pokemon I'm shiny hunting for in Ruby, and quite frankly, I have no idea if it's actually going to be used, but it is funny to have nonetheless, so why not? It doesn't take too long, as a single digit's worth of attempts is more than enough to obtain my monstrosity, leaving it in the box for now before taking on Wallace, complete with my team's 2 final evolutions into Exploud and Armaldo. Finally, a reason to use these 2 outside of exactly Protect strats against Slacking! Wallace ends up being a joke because I have both the electric and grass types at my disposal, leading Manectric against Love Disc for the swift Thunderbolt KO, leading to Whiscash. Of course, ground type needs to be countered, so I swap into Swellow to avoid the ground type move, only to walk into an Amnesia. Well then, that's gonna make things harder for Shiftry. I swap once again into him on a Water Pulse, thankfully not confusing, but not managing to do nearly enough damage with a 2-hit Bullet Seed, as a second Amnesia is used. And yes, I'm still using Bullet Seed. I didn't go out of my way to grab Giga Drain yet. I'll do it when the level cap isn't breathing down my neck. It sure would be useful right about now, though, since I'm kinda locked in a stalemate with this Whiscash until I get a critical hit or can set up some growths. Sure enough, post-Hyper Potion, I'm able to get a 4-hit Bullet Seed for around half, followed by a critical hit to put him down to the count, leading to Celio. Back out to Manectric we go on the KO for Celio and Seaking, both going down to Thunderbolt, just leaving Milotic. Now, while we're still in the rain, I have a feeling that Thunderbolt's still going to be able to do more than enough with a decent special attack IV and max EV investment. Should just die. However, it doesn't even bring Milotic into the red, as Ice Beam is used, bringing Manectric into low yellow HP. Glad it didn't crit, otherwise we'd be down a team member. Glad it didn't use a water-type move, otherwise we'd be down a team member. But Manectric's able to bounce back, outspeed, and KO with a second Thunderbolt next turn to win the fight, earn me the Rain Badge, and put me in contention with the Pokemon League. Time to go eat them alive! That sure sounds fun. Though not exactly tasty. I'm not a cannibal, I just needed something that sounded more intense than, let's go pound their bussies in, or something equally awful. All that remains is item collecting in Victory Road, so I made sure to go around doing stuff like the Trick House to obtain the Magnet, using Thief on multiple wild Pokemon to get some of the other type boosting items like the Spell Tag, and of course grabbing the remaining TMs I was missing like Return and Giga Drain before finally trekking through Victory Road, ending with a pit stop against Wally. He's much improved since his measly Ralts days. And by days, I mean like 20 minutes ago, probably not even, leading Altaria as I go with Swampert, ripping through it with Ice Beam as he sends in Roselia. This is another great Ice Beam target, but sadly it doesn't quite go down thanks to our piss-poor special attack. He's able to get off a Leech Seed and Super Potion combo. Nearly heals Roselia out of range, but too bad, you dumb bitch, it died anyway. We do end up getting out to Delcatty third here with Swampert under Leech Seed, and I'm not really that inclined to leave him out here unless we were facing out Magneton, but considering I'm over 10 levels ahead, I just said before Magneton does enter, leaving me to Earthquake it for its troubles. All that remains is Gardevoir, a perfect target for me to go into Shiftry and use 2 feint attacks through a few double teams and a Super Potion to KO and end the fight. Alright, one more side tangent to take care of, and that's the move deleter to suit up our final movesets. Since there's no post-game battles to take down in Ruby and Sapphire, the team's basically ready to go, with Armaldo packing Ancient Power, Metal Claw, Aerial Ace, and Earthquake, thanks to saving our TM, just letting Swampert learn it by level up, Exploud with Shadow Ball, Brick Break, Overheat, and Return, since why not give it the overpowered fire move when I don't have that coverage elsewhere, and it doesn't affect any of my other 3 attacks. Shiftry has Double Team, Giga Drain, Growth, and Feint Attack, Swellow with Aerial Ace, Steel Wing, Return, and Fly, and finally Manectric with Thunderbolt, Hidden Power Rock with 38 power since I have no idea what to fit this slot with, Thunder, and Bite. Oh, and for some reason in the script I completely forgot to put down what Swampert has. Nick, put it on screen because I'm not going back through that footage. I do remember it has Earthquake, I know it has Surf, I know it has Ice Beam. Could not remember for the life of me what its 4th move is. Is it Hidden Power? Is it Return? I don't know! Anyway, no Groudon necessary. I'm confident with the team. I've been rocking this whole adventure, so we may as well just go in there. First up, Sydney with this lead Mightyena as I go with Exploud, and despite that Intimidate, Brick Break's still a 2-shot through a Sand attack, leading to Cacturn. Gotta turn up the heat for this one, a perfect target to blast with Overheat for the 1-shot as Sharpedo takes on the battlefield third, letting me swap into Manectric on the Swagger, then into Shiftry on a resisted Surf before plowing through it with a Giga Drain. 2 members remain with Absol entering the fray, though is banished back to its Pokeball with 2 Giga Drains through the Citrus Berry, leaving his own Shiftry. I'm not too keen on the mirror match here since I really don't have anything that he doesn't resist, so I just opt to go back into Exploud, seeing Double Team and missing on my first Overheat attempt, but managing to hit through with the second despite another Double Team to snatch the win effectively enough. Second up is Phoebe, and Exploud is once again the lead here, carrying his weight with the power of Ghost Immunity and Shadow Ball for coverage with a massive attack stat. Too bad that's not enough to take out Dusclops because these things are incredibly annoying, and therefore go for Confuse Ray, sending him packing to the back of the party in favor of Shiftry on the full restore turn. Feint Attack does the same amount of damage as Shadow Ball did, but I'm met instead with a Shadow Punch, barely doing any damage as Feint Attack number 2 KOs, leading to the second Dusclops. This one's much more competent with coverage like Earthquake, so I decide to go back into Exploud, only to be grinded to a screeching halt once again thanks to Confuse Ray. Alright, into Armaldo we go, I suppose, taking the neutral Earthquake for minimal damage as I reciprocate with the same, doing half but triggering the Citrus Berry to make it a 3-shot KO. Not a bad place to be in all things considered, as Shadow Ball doesn't do much, but once again following Metal Claw, bringing Dusclops to below half, Confuse Ray is once again a thorn in my side. Fine, I will go back into Exploud and finally bring the second of the duo of annoying Dusclops down with Shadow Ball. Just gotta deal with the Bayonets and Sableye now, with the first Bayonet going down to a single Shadow Ball, Sableye to 2 following an Attract that does nothing, and the second Bayonet to a crit Shadow Ball to rub salt in the wound because dear god, those Dusclops are very freaking annoying. I'm not shocked by it, they are the sole proprietors of difficulty for that fight, and at least we get to follow that up with an easier fight against Glacia. Exploud's geared up for the job once again as Brick Break safely able to evade Thick Fat on Celio and Walrein, plus Overheat's perfect for the always helpful oh shit button. She leads Glalie and I'm running for Brick Break immediately, but of course we're just shy of a KO as per usual, letting Hail get set up and taking chip damage along the way, though Glacia does burn through one of her Hyper Potions, letting Exploud take the point after 3 turns of Hail damage. Celio's in next, who takes the same damn amount of damage from Brick Break, barely surviving and hitting a Surf that in combination with Hail takes Exploud down to below half, but a second Brick Break ends it, leading to Celio number 2. This one has Attract, but Manectric is female, so it doesn't affect her. Sorry for not reciprocating your feelings, Celio, she just doesn't swing that way. Instead, she swings towards her old habit of killing anything that stands before her, thunderbolting Celio into oblivion to get Glacia to send out her second Glalie. Thunder is attempted. It misses, but it does hit after Hail is set up, which is kind of surprising, but oh my god. Can you just go down? This just brought Glalie to the same amount of HP as the other Glalie and Celio. Can someone please just get a f***ing 1-shot KO? Regardless, Glalie does eat paralysis here, so I'm good to either just outspeed next turn and KO with Thunderbolt, or KO with 2 after a full restore, leaving just Walrein to go down to the super effective Thunderbolt, winning me the fight. Just 2 more to go, with Drake standing in my way of the champion, leading Shelgon as I'm going for Manectric here. Now I think I figured out what was going on here. At the time, I probably forgot what my hidden power typing was for Manectric. I'm pretty sure that I thought it was Dragon, hence why I gave it to a special attacker, but alas, it goes to show you that you should always triple check details. Oh well, the first thing to go out of the window in a battle is a plan, so time to wing it. Manectric's able to take down Shelgon following 2 Thunderbolts after the accidental HP Rock, taking slightly over a third damage from Rock Tomb as Flygon enters second, leading to Sandstorm. Honestly, kinda shocked by that outcome. I 100% expected it to go for Earthquake, as he probably sees the KO on Manectric, but I guess the AI is hardwired to go for weather moves first? Alas, Swellow's able to do just over half with Return, as Dragon Breath in tandem with the Sandstorm brings us to around half HP, cleaning up the KO with the second Return, with Altaria coming out third. Now it's finally time for Swampert. That ground typing sure does help with not being able to be hit with chip damage from Sandstorm, plus we're not paralyzed by the switched in Dragon Breath, letting me take the quick KO on Altaria, Flygon number 2, and Salamence, all with 1 Ice Beam each to end the Dragon Tamer. Just one final bout after healing, and it's Steven, the Steel Master, leading a Skarmory that immediately gets sapped out of the sky with a Manectric Thunderbolt, putting him up 6-5 against his Aggron. Sorry for cutting the tension like a knife there, folks, but Steven's team isn't really that hard to deal with if you're equipped for it. Of course, he's going for Earthquake here, so I swap into Swellow to take that with an immunity, and then into Swampert, since for some godforsaken reason, this Aggron has Thunder instead of a Rock-type move. What the stupid heck is wrong with you, Steven? This lets me get another immunity and one-shot with Earthquake. Third out is Cradilly, so it's time for the battle of the billion-year-old fossils, with Armaldo coming in on a weak Giga Drain to start hitting in with Earthquake, doing so through a Confuse Ray for over a third. Perfectly fine by me, at least now I can swap out without taking additional damage, and I don't really have an effective out to Cradilly. I try Manectric to see how much Thunderbolt does, accidentally getting the static trigger off of an Ancient Power, which should help things at least slightly before deciding on Exploud, taking a Confuse Ray, then hitting himself once before snapping out and KOing with Brick Break, leading to Claydol. Now, this is out fourth, we've gotten half the team taken down, and this is also easy, as Shadow Ball is super effective, takes it down in 2 shots, and it's only able to do around half from an Earthquake as Metagross takes center stage. I'm kind of expecting this to pretty much be Earthquake or bust, but I didn't consider the possibility of him using Meteor Mash. Maybe he didn't see the KO with Earthquake, which kinda sucks because upon switching into Swellow, it goes down from full HP without any hopes of survival. Sorry, my feathered friend, I'm just very stupid sometimes. I just love having made fun of Steven right at the beginning, and then immediately just losing my whole deathless run because of a stupid accident. God, I am so smart. I am so intelligent, folks. But hey, at least it gives me a clean swap into Swampert. From here, I'm able to Earthquake Metagross into the red and KO with the second following the Citrus Berry activation, leaving just Armaldo. Sure enough, his Slash doesn't do much, letting Surf once again not get a one-shot. I swear it's either like I'm confident in a 2-shot, it is 100% going to be a one-shot, or it's something where I believe it's going to be a one-shot, I'm 100% sure of it, but the game likes to tell me no and leave my opponent's HP into the red. This compounds too, since Steven not only uses 1, he uses not 2, not 3, but 4 full restores on this guy to prolong the battle as long as he can because he knows he's been beat. But once they're depleted, one more Surf takes out the Fossil Behemoth, giving me the win and a successful run of Pokemon Ruby using only shiny Pokemon. Can't waste any more time following that though, because Steven clearly did enough of that. We've got an entire run of Sapphire to get through. So I've got a bit of a dilemma for Sapphire. See, I could pick Trico and have an easy time for Roxanne, but then that would leave me with Torchic and Emerald with no effective outs, save for Wingull and Shroomish, which I'd prefer to save for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. However, I've got just the tool to help. There just so happens to be an event Pokemon that is still readily accessible today that isn't shiny locked. Or rather, a distribution Pokemon, and has a 9 in 65,535 chance of being shiny. That is Jirachi from the Pokemon Coliseum bonus disc. I spent $200 on this. Did you know this costs $200? It's insane. It literally only gives you 1 Pokemon. So, I guess if you want a legitimate shiny Jirachi, better fork up $200 to some Joe Schmo on eBay. So with that in hand, I decided to go with the Torchic route. My trainer ID manipulation is the same as it was in Ruby, so I can just go for the 04397 and 33270 combo we had in Ruby, then go for Torchic in the bag. And considering the RNG is once again the same, I'm good to go for the same frame as I did with Mudkip. 6,347 with a near max IV in HP and special defense, as well as in the top third for attack and speed. Or I could go for this one with nearly perfect IVs on all stats and Hidden Power Water with 66 power to take care of pesky rock and ground types. All at the expense of waiting until frame 1,557,733. I teased chat with this early on, showing how it would take over 26,000 seconds to get there, but of course I didn't go for that. It just doesn't make sense. It would be a waste of time. Thankfully, it doesn't take many resets at all to get Torchic, KOing the Poochyena, getting the Pokedex, and going straight for May since we need to take her down before we can go for Jirachi. Now, theoretically, you're only supposed to get Jirachi once per save file, so I have to reset, do the manipulation to Torchic, and then hope I get the shiny Jirachi on that attempt, otherwise do it all over again. Fortunately for me, there's a faster way of doing so, with the power of Save Corruption. After getting the Pokedex, simply save twice in front of Professor Birch, load up the Coliseum bonus disc, and claim Jirachi. If it's not shiny, simply hit save and turn off the game as soon as you do. It is a very tight window. But if you can do it, the game reverts to the backup save, hence why we saved twice before, and since it reverts to the first before we got the Jirachi, as it's already written into the second save from outside of the cartridge itself. And I failed this numerous times as well. Although I had a backup plan to the backup plan, thanks to the GB operator. With this device, I'm able to transfer my save game between the original cartridge and my PC for use through emulation. So by keeping a backup, I can always transfer it to the cartridge if in the event I screw up and corrupt my save or do it wrong. I'm always able to keep my current Torchic without having to do that manipulation again, all because of it. Also, shoutouts to the IPS screen mod for the original wide Game Boy Advance systems. I know people say that the AGS 101 has the best screen for these games, but the form factor does not agree with my adult hands. I had one as a kid, but my hands should not be touching each other when I'm playing video games. It's just too cramped, but the original console is really nice for the width, as well as the much larger shoulder buttons. Anyway, I end up doing around 100 or so soft resets before trying to resort to some sort of RNG manipulation, which is apparently possible with the checksums using a Japanese software, which isn't exactly something I can do in a hardcore nuzlocke setting without whiting out, which would start me back at Pokémon Red. The best thing I can do is just save repeatedly over and over again, then inject my save file into a checksum reader to see if the 4-digit code lines up to provide a shiny Jirachi from the bonus disc. I end up shooting for A030 as my checksum, and after about 6.5 hours of just praying it would work, eventually I did save on that checksum, injected the save back into the cartridge, then went straight to the bonus disc. GBA to GameCube link cable connected, and one transfer later, and it's here, shiny Jirachi. Honestly, it's really sick to have one of these in my collection, not hacked at all. Though we did use as much technology as I could feasibly get my hands on to not make this take months. Seriously, some shiny hunters have spent months, if not probably over a year, on soft resetting to get Jirachi from this, and I'm not about to spend that much time on a video. It's just not worth it when I derive my value from playing the game. However, I wouldn't be opposed to doing something like Matt from AbsolBlog's Pokemon, where he gets a group of people together for several days in an Airbnb for Safari Week, and spends time with people through the vehicle of shiny hunting. That sounds like an amazing bonding experience, but I digress. With those two encounters, I'm more than capable of taking on Roxanne after EV training. Since Blaziken's eventually going to sit with a pitiful 2 IV in special attack, I'm going full throttle into a physical attacker, eventually ending with Overheat as my fire attack of choice, while Jirachi is going to be a monstrous special attacker capable of nearly one-shotting anything with Psychic or Thunderbolt, while also outspeeding them with those base stats being at a base 100. Need I also mention that Jirachi has 2 perfect stats, with a 31 IV in attack and defense, 24 in special defense, 21 in HP, but of course some halfway okay special attack and speed with 18 and 19 respectively, but again, it's nothing to shake a stick at, especially regarding a mythical. Speaking of, for Roxanne, I'm using Jirachi as my lead, but whoopsie, I forgot that this is technically a traded Pokemon and it's gonna disobey me. Thankfully, 2 of the moves I have are Wish and Rest, which fully heal Jirachi, so it's not like I can get blown out of this game. I just have to land enough confusions to KO both Geodude and Nosepass. It takes a bit too long for my liking, especially with the Swifts mixed in there, but I do eventually manage to take out Geodude, leaving just Nosepass to go down after a Wish brings me back to full HP, taking it out with a confusion and winning the fight. Perfect! Now I can get past that Aqua Grunt, evolve Torchic, and be more than ready for Brawly as well. Peck is an effective move from Combusken, as is Jirachi using Confusion, which should be good enough, but unfortunately for me, I'm kinda stuck with disobeying at this point still. In fact, it gets so bad that after KOing Machop, Makihita comes out, gets off a Bulk Up, and Jirachi proceeds to put itself to sleep twice and nearly be KO'd by Arm Thrust, being brought to just 8 HP. Fortunately, Combusken's able to come in, but holy frick, a 5-hit Arm Thrust nearly KOs. I think I'm actually in danger of wiping here. Ember? Phew. Oh, thank the frickin' Lord I got a crit there. No losses, we're good, no need to reflect on that situation again, I'm totally fine, I'm totally sane, everything is fine. You know, this whole thing could have been avoided if I had just entered Granite Cave before the gym. I mean, straight up, Sableye is available here in Sapphire. Could have grabbed it, been fully immune to all of Brawly's attacks, but I'm a stubborn idiot who's like, yeah, I'm too lazy to do that now, let me grab that later. even though it only takes 2 resets to find it. By the way, what a great coloration on Sableye here. The bronze looks absolutely fantastic on it, and while it does end up fighting me quite a bit while attempting to capture, I do manage to snag it after a few turns, and wowie, the new coloration for Sableye's shiny that's reflected in my layout is not fitting the sprite here. It looks like the color of piss. It is literally the piss gem. This is bad. Now, regarding Sableye's EVs, I'm aiming for a very defensive build, maxing out in HP while splitting between defense and special defense, but mostly leaning towards the latter with around 200 points in special defense and the remainder in the physical defense. It's also a bit of a coverage machine, which of course has access to Stab Shadow Ball, but it also gets Fake Out to get a free turn, Aerial Ace to smooth out some weird matchups, and of course a wealth of status moves. Regardless, I'm able to move ahead all the way to Route 110, ripping through Maze Shroomish with Combusken's Ember, then Marshtomp and Numel with Jirachi's Psychic. Yeah, we already have access to Psychic, and we haven't even gotten to the Mauville City Game Corner. Not to mention, we can also get access to Flamethrower from there before Watson, but once again, I'm too lazy and go into the fight with just Ember on Combusken. God, I am very intelligent. Thankfully, it works out for me though, as his lead Magnemite goes down to 2 of them after a Thunder Wave is healed off by a held Cherry Berry, leading to Voltorb. Is what I would say if I was intelligent, but I'm not, so I get confused by Supersonic after Thunder Wave isn't healed off, then I'm forced to swap into Jirachi to take a Sonic Boom and KO it and Voltorb with Psychic, leaving just Magneton. Thankfully, from here, the fight's pretty easy to take care of, though even with being paralyzed by Thunder Wave, it is a slog. However, we're not dealing with obedience issues. Wish still heals me for a lot of HP when Shockwave is only doing a quarter per turn, giving me ample time to hit a Psychic, followed by a critical Psychic to get the KO and the win for the team. Not bad for only 3 members so far, though I guess it is a bit of a given considering I am using a mythical. But in all honesty, what other Nuzlocke videos are you gonna be able to see a shiny Jirachi used in a Nuzlocke legitimately? I bet you there's not a single one on this platform. With 3 badges in hand though, I'm fine to head into the game corner and pick up those TMs I've been sorely missing. Flamethrower for Combusken and Thunderbolt for Jirachi are top priority right now, but I'm sure I'll be back for future team members. Like this one in Shiny Plusle on Route 110. It's not that good really, but I don't think you necessarily need an electric type to run through Hoenn in the remake, so why the hell not? It burns a slot, it's another special attacker, has access to Encore as well in the rare instance where it ends up making a fight trivial instead of more difficult than it needs to be. Also, why not is Lunatone over in the Meteor Falls? We already have a Psychic type, but I'd rather use this as a decent wall with the Rock typing, while backing it with other physical coverage attacks. After all, got the Adamant nature, may as well put the Rock type into good use with access to the likes of Shadow Ball and Earthquake alongside it. Admittedly though, the team does look rather jank, but considering I have Combusken and Jirachi, I think it holds up plenty enough to take on Archie at the top of Mount Chimney. First up is his Mightyena, taken down by 2 Jirachi Thunderbolts following a neutral bite for minimal damage, leading to Golbat down in 1 Thunderbolt, as is Sharpedo, ending the fight in extremely short order. So much for Dark types, it's a good thing we still have that technical resistance to it until Gen 6. Maybe it was a waste of time to get Plusle, but no time to harp on that, as I've got another gym leader to crush the bones of, and would you believe it, but Lunatone. Oh, Lunatone. I ended up getting this as an early shiny frame. It has Hidden Power Rock, getting stabbed from it, and it's also at the max power of 70. Yeah, this gym's toast. HP Rock takes out both Slugmas, leaving just Torkoal to be resisted out of this game. HP Rock does half, a crit Body Slam only does a quarter, then to ensure I don't miss the range, we get a critical HP Rock to KO, winning the fight and getting half of the gym badges to my collection. With the Go Goggles in hand though, it's time to grab yet another addition to the collection. I really don't think the Gen 3 fossils are worth getting outside of these games, and I'm not waiting for the Mirage Tower and Emerald, so Lileep it is. I also really like the shiny coloration on it here. It goes perfectly with normal Cradilly, and quite frankly should have been the normal coloration considering shiny Cradilly is pink, and it would have made more sense for normal Lileep that's purple to go into shiny pink Cradilly, but I'm just talking out of my ass at this point. Once again, I'm going with a defensive set here for it, pretty out of the realm of normal for myself to go for 3 wall monsters, but I can switch it up when I feel like it's fun. Great Illy's great for HP and a half and half split for defense and special defense EVs, plus we can get access to Confuse Ray and Toxic for damage, Giga Drain to heal and do damage, and then Protect to stack those Toxic turns, so it should be useful against anyone not named Steven. With the full team of 6 in hand though, I'm ready for Norman. While I don't have any Pokemon that have learned Protect by now, I do have Dig on Combuskin as well as a held Lepa Berry to get 20 uses out of it. His first Slacking's pretty easy to take down, though it does take quite a few digs to get him to red HP. Thankfully, it happens on an attacking turn though, so I can follow that up with a Bulk Up, then use a second Bulk Up on the Truant turn before going once again for Dig, taking him out with 3 of them before, of course, hitting a crit to make sure that that only takes 3 instead of 4, before Vigoroth comes out second. Double Kick at +2 attack outspeeds and is plenty enough to KO, leaving just the second Slacking, who outspeeds and hits Combuskin with Facade before Dig is able to be used. I did not expect to be outsped by a Slacking of all things, but that means I need a plan B. That plan B is essentially, don't get crit, so I can KO with a Double Kick next turn and not have to think, which comes to fruition and gives me the win. Probably could have just swapped for Jirachi there for the resistance to normal, but I had +2, I had to get it twisted, gamble, and win. 5 badges, no losses, feeling pretty good from this point. But I don't have a water type for Surf, so I just went ahead and boxed one of my party members to replace for Swampert from Ruby just for the HM usage, moving on ahead into Route 119 for the Weather Institute and Battle with May. Shelly goes super easily, of course, thanks to Jirachi's Thunderbolt, zapping Carvana, then Mightyena in 2 shots with Paralysis, making sure I don't take damage a single time, moving straight into May afterwards. She's leading a level 29 Shroomish. Woman, please evolve your Pokemon. You can't tell me in good faith you're waiting until level 54 for Spore. Level 54. That is 1 level below the cap for the Elite Four. Regardless, I lead Sableye and hit Fake Out on the opening turn before going for Secret Power, nearly bringing her down with a critical hit as Leech Seed is set up. I figured going for a second Secret Power would do it, but not quite thanks to the HP recovery from Leech Seed, forcing me to go for Nightshade next turn to get the KO. Well, at least Sableye got some use. Numel's out second, so it's out into Lunatone for the ground immunity with Levitate, KOing with 2 Hidden Power Rocks through a Focus Energy. Third and last is Marshtomp, which is free real estate with Lunatone, since this guy is just... it is not capable of doing good damage at all. Psychic should have been a 2-shot here, but of course Ranges decided to be a weenie, but considering the only damage Lunatone took here was from Takedown followed by a useless Mudsport, the third Psychic puts Marshtomp down for the count to net me another win in the column. And hey, Lunatone's getting even more action against Winona, leading Swellow as Hidden Power Rock tears right through her day and through that evasion with Double Team. Second out is Pelipper, getting off not only 1 Protect, but 2 of them before the third fails with Hidden Power taking her into the red. Unfortunately, it does lead to a connected Supersonic, but that's what Jirachi's for. Thunderbolt is more than capable of ripping through Pelipper after a Hyper Potion, but does not do nearly enough to Altaria. Thankfully, we do get the Paralysis, but that special defense stat is off the charts, all while Dragon Dance is applied, putting major pressure on me to go back into Lunatone and finish her off with Ice Beam. Yeah, I don't know why the Moon Rock gets Ice Beam, but hey, I'll 100% take it. Skarmory's out last and not phased by Hidden Power Rock, only taking a quarter as Sand Attack is used, so hey, why not finally give Plusle the excuse to go into battle, taking a Steel Wing for a little under a quarter as Thunderbolt finishes her off, giving me the win and the level cap necessary to evolve Combuskin into Blaziken. With the fully evolved starter in hand, we should be in a great position to take out the rest of the game. Not much else between here and Lily Cove to talk about, so let's just jump ahead to the rival fight in front of the Lily Cove department store. May's leading Swellow, myself with Lunatone taking it out with HP Rock and 1-shot through a Double Team, then doing the same with Shroomish with an Ice Beam. Yeah, she's still got the Shroomish. Third is Marshtomp at least, easy enough to handle with a Shadow Ball and Psychic combo, albeit with a special defense drop from Shadow Ball that made it a little more enticing to use the stab follow-up, all through a Mudsport that does nothing, leaving Lunatone untouched against her final Pokemon in Numel. Hidden Power may be neutral, but it still does a ton of damage, bringing her down into the red as Amnesia is used. Oh boy, +2 special defense, whatever will I do? Well, to rub salt into the wound, I just went for Psychic to take down that small amount of HP remaining, KOing and earning me a nice win. There's a few TMs in there, of course, but not much that's needed to get through the Team Aqua onslaught. The story likes getting in the way, but when there's no challenge, there's no point in covering it, so let's just move on right through into the Titanize fight in Moss Deep, involving Lileep just before the battle. They only have Solrock and Lunatone, so it's time to prove my superiority with my Lunatone with a blue eye. And Sableye for that nice fake-out potential. Except I'm very dumb and I'm like, ooh, double Shadow Ball? Yay! And go for that on Solrock, but their Lunatone outspeeds and puts my Lunatone to sleep with Hypnosis, all while setting up Sunny Day with Solrock before Sableye puts half damage down on it with Shadow Ball. That should be fine though. I can bring out Jirachi over Lunatone to dodge a super effective Solar Beam, then go for another Shadow Ball into the Solrock slot to bring this into a 2-on-1 battle. The only problem here is that Lunatone goes +1 with Calm Mind, but Thunderbolt and Shadow Ball should be able to do some pretty decent damage if not just KO it from here, especially considering the chip damage from Solrock's Flamethrower won't matter and I can still target it with a super effective Shadow Ball. That aforementioned combo manages to bring Lunatone all the way down to low red HP, all while it misses with Hypnosis, making the next turn the end no matter what side hits Hypnosis on next turn. Except we walk into a Hyper Potion, but we put the battle right back in that position. And then a second Hyper Potion is used because these characters just love stalling, but I guess Jirachi was getting impatient, getting a crit Thunderbolt to finally let it go down to Sableye Shadow Ball, earning me yet another win and the Mind Badge. 7 down, 1 to go, but we still have a little bit of Team Aqua chicanery to deal with. Now, I think the only battle worth talking about before Wallace is Archie in the Seafloor Cavern, but quite frankly, thanks to the power of Jirachi, it's simple. But with the power of Plusle, it's a little more fun. He leads Mightyena, I'm going with Plusle of course, landing a Thunder on the first go, all while outspeeding, one-shotting immediately. Holy moly, Plusle's sweep is incoming! Out comes Crobat and down goes Crobat with a Thunderbolt following a wing attack for only a fifth of Plusle's HP. Then Thunderbolt connects on Sharpedo, outspeeding and KOing to complete the Plusle sweep. I knew I grabbed it for a reason, I guess. Thunderbolt on Jirachi wouldn't have one-shot Mightyena, and it's immune to Psychic, but Stab Thunder on Plusle sure as hell will. Now then, one Pokemon remains to add to my collection, and that's Shiny Kyogre. I don't have a Water type yet, so why not? The IVs on it are rough to say the least, but it's another legendary, nothing that I should really care about. With my experience of already having captured another shiny Groudon in both my Oak Challenge and Ruby Nuzlocke, it doesn't take long whatsoever to grab myself the shiny Kyogre, only taking 3 attempts to get the beautiful pink fish. Gotta say, this is top 5 best shiny legendaries easily, maybe even top 3. Probably Black Rayquaza number 1 because it hits the same itch that Charizard does. Black Dragons are just cool. Unless you're Red Eyes Black Dragon, in which case your deck sucks balls in comparison to Blue Eyes White Dragon, but don't get me on the Yu-Gi-Oh kick or else I'll talk about it for 10 minutes. Anyway, Wallace is a bit of an easy target thanks to Jirachi and Plusle, leading Love Disc as I go with the former and one-shot with Thunderbolt, using Psychic on the follow-up Whiscash for half damage before seeing Amnesia. Alright, well, I guess we have to finally bust out Cradily for this. Considering I can't KO with Psychic, and I'm not about to take an Earthquake into a Hyper Potion here, it only does a quarter on Switch-In, letting me follow up the second with Giga Drain to KO, leading to Celio, who's not able to put much pressure on Cradily with Aurora Beam either, KOing with 2 before Milotic enters. While Marvel Scale is an ability to be weary of, I do still have my Toxic, Confuse Ray, and Protect combo to do the massive damage needed to be done to it. So much so that once I'm forced to swap due to having taken too much damage, Jirachi's getting brought back in on a Milotic on its literal last pixel of HP, forcing a Hyper Potion before Thunderbolt connects and allowing for the Toxic damage to continue piling on. This subsequently forces a second Hyper Potion as 2 more Thunderbolts and Toxic damage finally fell the aquatic Bulky Serpent. Last down is Seeking, and oddly enough, it survives a Thunderbolt from Jirachi. For probably one of the worst water Pokemon from Gen 1, I am shocked to say that it's able to survive a mythical Pokemon's super effective move. But considering it only does a third with a Water Pulse boosted by the previously used Rain Dance last turn, it's a free KO with the second Thunderbolt to earn me the Rain Badge. And we're back here again. Just gotta prep for Victory Road in the Pokemon League, and there's not much to do considering these Pokemon don't have the craziest movesets, or the TMs have already been easily obtainable. The held items take a bit longer, but it's well worth it to increase further my chance of victory. And sure, the team still looks rather jank, considering how well it's been performing, especially with the upcoming fight with Wally. I'm extremely confident in clearing through the league with no losses. Speaking of which, he leads Altaria, I'm going with Lunatone, and boom, Ice Beam knocks the bird straight down after setting up Safeguard, leading to Roselia, who eats an Ice Beam for the KO. Delcatty's third, going down to 2 Earthquakes and a Hidden Power thanks to a Mist Sing and a Super Potion. Fourth out is Magneton, a pretty easy Earthquake swallowing that hunk of scrap for dinner, leaving just Gardevoir. Shadow Ball pretty much is the perfect out here despite Double Team, lowering its special defense after a Double Team, but considering Wally's best healing item is literally a Super Potion, the second follows suit, KOing and earning me the last win needed to reach the Pokemon League. And that's just with a single Lunatone. I have a Jirachi and a Kyogre on my team, and I was able to solo a fight with a Lunatone! With that slight hilarity out of the way, it is time to fully deck out the team. Puzzles had its fun, but this is where the big boys play, and Kyogre covers much more than it ever could. Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Surf, and Calm Mind is broken, not to mention we've got Jirachi on the team, with Blaziken as the starter and 3 decent to pretty darn effective walls. I'm set. Honestly though, is Lunatone even a wall at this point? Its role has kind of evolved to be an amazing mixed attacker, though now it's leaning more towards physical, with Shadow Ball, Ice Beam, Earthquake, and Hidden Power Rock. I did cut Psychic since Jirachi's just superior in landing that in every way at this point, and I may as well have 2 users of Ice Beam for Drake, but it's still pretty cool to see a non-legendary and underutilized Pokemon get as much spotlight that it has gotten here. The other 4 on the team are of course Sableye, housing Return, Fake Out, Aerial Ace, and Shadow Ball, basically being a bulky bastard with no weaknesses that can pound out physical attacks. Jirachi with Psychic, Calm Mind, Rest, and Thunderbolt, all because Calm Mind is a TM and Kyogre just so happens to learn it by level up, so I can burn my TM here, utilizing Jirachi's 2 best special attacks along with Rest and Chesto Berry as my held item of choice to ensure an easy setup with high enough HP to survive just about anything thrown at it. Cradilly's making the team with the aforementioned Protect, Confuse Ray, Toxic, and Giga Drain. No need to change anything there aside from using some PowerPoint ups on Giga Drain to get 8 uses out of it instead of 5. And last but not least, my starter Blaziken with Overheat, Bulk Up, Brick Break, and Return. Sure, we can't hit ghost types with our setup, but frankly, I've already got enough outs to Phoebe on this team. Shadow Ball on Sableye when it takes only neutral damage from it, as well as Lunatone being able to hit them for lunch. I mean, it literally just eats them alive. With these 6 in tow though, I'm ready. Sydney's first, leading Mightyena as I go with Blaziken, attempting to set up Bulk Up for the Brick Breaks across the board, but wowie! Sand Attack is very much nonsense. A single one of them makes me miss 2 Brick Breaks before the third finally connects, KOing Mightyena but at the cost of half of my HP going into Shiftry, who sets up Double Team and also dodges, then goes for extra Sensory to pull Blaziken down to red HP. Well, so much for that, out to Sableye I suppose. There's not much for Shiftry to do damage with, so I go for Fake Out for the chip damage before laying in with Aerial Ace. After all, there's no such thing as accuracy here thanks to it, getting through not only the double teams but the swagger used afterwards, putting me to +2 to guarantee the KO as Cacturn enters third, going down immediately to Aerial Ace despite the confusion still being active. Fourth is Sharpedo, outspeeding and nailing a Surf for a quarter damage, but with Sableye snapping out of confusion, I've got a free +2 and Return's able to one-shot. Last down is Absol, and I'm a little bit of an idiot staying in here. I thought that Return would have one-shot it, but of course, patent meatball mistake of not being able to tell what's a one-shot and what's just going to be slightly below, letting him get up to +2 with Sword Stance. Admittedly though, the only attack he can land here is Aerial Ace, and that's the only move that can get a boost. Problem is that if it gets a crit, down goes Sableye, so I'm just like, Sableye doesn't matter, just hit it. And of course my brain, because it didn't want to think, is able to be rewarded once again as we survive with a quarter of our HP, hitting the final Return to put Sydney's ace down and giving me the first of 5 wins necessary to get me out of the first bout of the Hoenn region for this series. Next up, Phoebe's leading Dusclops as I going with Sableye, hopefully to tear through with Shadow Ball without having to deal with too much here, though of course following the first Shadow Ball, wait, we didn't get confused by Confuse Ray because they didn't use it at all! I can KO after the Shadow Punch and Full Restore with 2 more Shadow Balls, putting us up 6-4. Awesome. Out comes Bayonet second using Spite as Shadow Ball nearly KOs, but then comes my actual nerf, Will-O-Wisp. At least I got 2 KOs here, but with half damage. Shadow Ball's only going to be doing around a quarter to the follow-up Sableye, hitting Attract afterwards. Well, a Burn and Infatuation is essentially the death nail for Sableye in this fight, so I'm swapping for Cradilly, walking into a Shadow Ball for about a 7th as we get outsped next turn and attracted once again. Ah yes, the Gem Gremlin and the 300 billion-year-old fossil. What a beautiful couple. Thankfully, Cradilly breaks through and nails Toxic, putting a clock on this little interaction. Time to swap once again though, this time going into Blaziken and taking a Shadow Ball before dishing out an Overheat to end this before Attract shenanigans take place, with the second Bayonet coming in and landing Toxic on my incoming Cradilly. I guess I may as well go for Giga Drain to both lower Bayonet's HP and give me a few more turns with Cradilly on the field, taking 2 Shadow Balls to the face in the process and going -2 in special defense. At least this is enough to put Bayonet into full restore range though, letting Blaziken once again come in on the healing turn and clean up with Overheat, leaving just the second Dusclops. Back out we go this time into Lunatone to take a Confuse Ray, but considering I'm trying to stay in for Shadow Ball, it doesn't work out and we both hit ourselves and get hit with a Shadow Ball to go down to around 1/4 HP. I guess I could bust out Jirachi for this one, eating a Shadow Ball on the switch for minimal damage before dishing out Psychic, putting Dusclops down below half. Sure, at least a Confuse Ray and a triggered Citrus Berry to do just enough to heal out of KO range, but at least Jirachi didn't hit itself that turn and Dusclops got into the red. However, with an Earthquake hitting for around 1/3, it is a bit of a risk to swap out at this point with so many of my Pokemon in bad shape. So I just opt to go for Psychic once again, thankfully without Jirachi hitting itself, KOing and finishing the most annoying of the league fights. And quite frankly, the rest of the league are utter jokes at this point. Unsurprising, since Phoebe tends to be the hardest and most annoying in just about any runs I do of the Hoenn region. Glacia falls pretty effectively thanks to Blaziken, setting up a ton of bulk ups in the face of Glalie, setting up Light Screen, Hail, and using a few Ice Beams. Thankfully, I can heal a little bit from the held Citrus Berry, so there's no worries about the hail damage possibly taking out Blaziken, getting up to +4 attack and then using Brick Break to KO Glalie, Celio number 2, Glalie number 2, and Walrein. Still insane to me that she only uses 2 lines of Pokemon. After all, she could have easily used Cast Form after the lead Glalie sets up Hail, and... oh jeez. I guess they really didn't have any ice types in the Hoenn Dex. I mean, Sneasel, Dugong, Cloyster, Lapras, Piloswine, Delibird, Jinx. None of them are available here, and it's not like they're throwing Regice on an Elite Four team. Oh well, I guess. Probably should have used a different type. Drake is quite simple as well, thanks to the debuting Kyogre, using Calm Mind once in the face of Shelgon's Rock Tomb, which while critting, doesn't quite bring the speed low enough to be outsped by the rest of the team. Until I misclick with Thunder. It does almost one-shot though, which is kind of surprising, so I get to see a full restore burned through, once again misclicking Thunder. God, why would the controller ever respond to any of my actions whatsoever? I just love misclicking, it's so fun! But at least I only go to -2 with Rock Tomb before KOing with Ice Beam, leading to Altaria, who falls after using Dragon Dance, Flygon after a Sandstorm interrupts the rain from Drizzle, Flygon number 2 after Dragon Breath for minimal damage, and finally Salamence after Dragon Claw does very little thanks to the Calm Mind buff, winning the fight despite my utter bumbling. All that remains is Steven, leading Skarmory as I go with Jirachi to evade his potential usage of Toxic, because we've got the Steel typing and we may as well put it to good use. Not to mention we can use it in the face of Spikes, which doesn't do anything, and Steel Wing, which is resisted, only doing around 10 to 15 damage per turn. Gotta love +6 setup sweeps though, seeing as just about all of Steven's Pokemon go down to either Psychic or Thunderbolt, with Skarmory going down to Thunderbolt, Claydol to a crit Psychic, which was the only Pokemon I was sure we weren't gonna one-shot, Aggron to Thunderbolt, Metagross also to Thunderbolt, Cradilly to Psychic, and Armaldo to Psychic to finish the fight with nary a scratch. And with that, that's our first visit to the Hoenn region complete, as we've successfully nuzlocked Pokemon Sapphire using only Shinies without a single loss. And sure, I used Jirachi and Kyogre, but again, when else am I gonna fit these in, folks? Jirachi is only available as a Shiny from the bonus disc, and Kyogre's Shiny locked in Alpha Sapphire, while only being available in the post-game and stuff like Heart Gold. Or Soul Silver. I don't remember which one's version exclusive for which game in that, because I have not played the HGSS post-game in its entirety since probably 2010. Regardless, I'm pretty happy with the win, and we'll be moving on to Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green shortly. The RNG manipulations in those games are, well, to put it simply, the system seems like it was programmed by a literal monkey. I mean, no human could have thought of it. It is too stupid. But we'll get to it next time. With that said, you folks stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.